so short. Okay, just a second. Hi everyone, I'm very honored and very humbled to be here today. It's actually my first South Asian conference of any kind ever in 26 years or so. My parents are actually from the islands of Fiji, and so am I. I was born and raised there till I was 13 years old. And they brought me here to this country, and I still don't know why, but that's a bigger... I mean, I can't really answer that. So if you ask me why my parents brought me here, I don't know. Please don't ask me that. But I'm undocumented and unafraid. I never had time to be afraid of it because I was too angry being undocumented. And how it happened? Well, it happened that my grandmother is a U.S. citizen and my parents are close to U.S. citizens, they're legal residents. So is my sister, she's a U.S. citizen, and so is my niece. So I have 4 generations of Americans in my family, and I'm the only undocumented person. And it makes no sense. And the more you try to make sense of it, the more you go insane doing so. And so I stopped trying to make sense of it. There's also another thing. I'm authorized to work in this country legally, but I'm not authorized to live. Don't try. It just doesn't make any sense. So, with that said, it was back in 2007, I believe, when I had my master's degree, I believe, in international relations, and I was aged out on the petition. I was over 21, and I was told, sorry, your parents are going to give you a green card, but you're not going to because, well, it took us so long to process this. You're over 21. Too bad. Wait another decade. So wait till I'm 31 or 34, and dates keep going back. So it's actually not 10 years, it's probably 13 or 14. Anyway. And I was thinking about leaving the country because I was just tired of this. And I have a master's, I need to leave. I need to do something with myself. But then there was this vote, and there was this bill called the DREAM Act back in October of 2007. And it failed to pass by about 6 votes. And I said, hey, wait a minute, I have so much time on my hand. I can't get employed in this country. I might as well put my skills to use. And so I went online, I researched this bill, I found some really incredible people, students like me. I just never known anything about this population. And I realized, at that time I realized, wait, I'm undocumented. It was kind of a late realization. But anyway, so I mean, we had students from, say, Nigeria and Iran and Venezuela, all around the country, who were in this country, who were brought here by their parents at a very young age, and undocumented. They spoke perfect English. They wanted to go to school, but they couldn't go to school, and they couldn't get loans to go to school, at least after high school education. And that was stuck in limbo, really. And you know, we are Americans for all purposes, besides the fact that we don't have a piece of paper. Well, I do, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, the point is that we got together and we formed this site called dreamactivist.org because I knew how to install a WordPress blog. I mean, that's just all I knew. And I taught myself how to do certain things over time, over the year that I spent, 2 years I spent at home, not doing anything, but just doing online activism and speaking at conferences like this one, and traveling around the country on my Fijian passport. Anyway. So it was strange, it was challenging. There were times when I sent out emails in German. I didn't even know what I was doing, but it was a learning experience. And then I got awards for new media organizing. I'm like, what is this? But I mean, I never thought I would be an organizer, much less an immigrant rights organizer. But it's just some of the things that happened to me, and you know, and I went on to go to law school. But before that, I think we started coordinating online, and one of our greatest challenges actually was as a youth movement of undocumented students coming out of the shadows and saying proudly that yes, we are undocumented, yes, we are here, and yes, you know, we are Americans just like you, and we deserve the right to stay in this country. And it was tough at first. We got hate mail, we had death threats. I still get death threats, and now they're just funny. But and I'm not getting used to it. I just try to find it all funny. It's hilarious sometimes. I mean, I'm told to go back to Mexico. I mean, come on now. it's not even, yeah. Anyway, so you have to just find humor in all of this because you'll go insane otherwise. But, I mean, we had so many students who were finally coming out as undocumented, because it saw us being so out and open about our status on CNN or New York Times or ABC, you name it. And it was a new phenomenon for all of us. And sooner or later we realized that even DHS was, I don't know, they liked us or they didn't like us, I'm not sure, but we had deportation cases of students who were being deported, and every time we used to get together with an organization in DC and block their fax lines with 5,000 faxes and email lines, and jam up Napolitano's voicemail and email box. And she used to change the email because of me, and I can't find a new one. So if anyone knows Napolitano's new email, please let me know. But, and we saw the deportation of so many students. And we realized that, you know what, being undocumented, no matter how much of a stigma it is in our community, especially, we can't really talk about it in our communities as South Asians. But actually, if you're open about it, and if you have a community of supporters around you, it's actually the safest thing for you to be. Because no one wants to touch you. And they just so scared of you. I mean, they called me for a green card interview last December, and I mean, they hate my guts completely. So I got my green card denied, but I have a work authorization, and they're supposed to put me in removal. And they haven't. They just don't want to put me in removal. It's too scared to do so. And I think it's funny. It's just funny. So there's just no time to be afraid. There's a lot of humor and amusement, and you have to just live with that, because even after all our organizing, even after sitting in Senator McCain's office in Arizona and shutting down traffic in Los Angeles for 3 hours, I was there, it was terrible, but we did it. And even after hunger striking for 16 days in Texas and North Carolina, and Congress, with 19 of us sat down in Congress last July and tried to get arrested, and the police were so scared to arrest us because they don't want to put us in deportation proceedings, because if you're undocumented and get arrested, you go right to removal proceedings usually. And they didn't want to. We had to actually call ICE ourselves to put ourselves in removal, and it still didn't work. And so we have students who are just offered, you know what, just take this deferred action, which is a work authorization document, and just leave us alone. Stop targeting us, stop telling us how to do our jobs. So it's empowering, actually, to have really no legal rights in this country and still have so much power. It's fantastic. So, I mean, it takes a few individuals, just small individuals with no funding and no real support, because we had to fight multi-million-dollar immigration organizations all the way in trying to push for the DREAM Act, which is actually a really small piece of legislation that would legalize young students like me who have, I'm not young anymore, but young students like me who are brought here at a really, when they're very small and very young by their parents. And it was just to give us a pathway to citizenship. That's all it is, really. And it's taken a 10-year struggle to get us to at least 2 votes. And we passed the House last year. And I remember the House vote because I was sitting in law school, sitting down for my first law school final while the House vote was taking place. And it was probably one of the most hardest days of my life, because I mean, I passed the exam, thank goodness, but Congress failed in passing as well. But we're still trying, and as far as I know, Obama keeps telling us that he's not deporting any more my students, but he is. And in the meantime, I'm trying to focus on going to school and trying to keep sane, and trying to figure out, and I'm working at Immigration Equality now as a board director, and trying to figure out what I can do about same-sex binational couples, because I'm also LGBT immigrant, so I can't just get married, unfortunately. But we had great news this past week when USCIS said we will no longer deny green card petitions for same-sex binational couples, and then 2 days later they went back to, usual. And we're still fighting on that. So I'd like to thank you all for bearing with me and for honoring me, of course. And if you have any questions, you can ask me later.